In the days when Israel was at war, when the clash of swords echoed far from Jerusalem and the dust of battle clung to men who slept beneath open skies, King David remained behind in the safety of his palace. The armies were encamped far from the capital. The city itself was quiet. The walls were strong. The throne was secure. From every visible angle, the kingdom appeared stable, victorious, and blessed. Yet history has a way of revealing that the greatest dangers rarely come from enemies beyond the walls. They come from the quiet moments within them. David had known danger for most of his life. He had been hunted by King Saul, hiding in caves and wilderness. He had faced lions and bears as a shepherd boy. He had stood before Goliath with nothing but a sling and faith. War, fear, and uncertainty had shaped him. They had driven him toward God. But now, years later, David was comfortable. Comfort has undone more leaders than war ever has. On this evening, David rose from his bed and walked alone upon the roof of the palace. The height gave him a view of Jerusalem that few others ever saw. From above, the city looked peaceful. Torches flickered in courtyards. Families gathered for meals. Life moved quietly beneath stone walls and narrow streets. David's mind may have wandered to the war, to Joab, to the men risking their lives for his kingdom, or perhaps his thoughts were empty, unguarded, unprepared for what would come next. And then he saw her. Below, in the privacy of her courtyard, a woman was bathing. The water caught the last light of the day, shimmering softly. Her movements were unhurried, unaware of the eyes above her. This was not a public display. It was a moment meant to be unseen. David stopped walking. He did not turn away. The king who had once fled for his life, who had trusted God against beasts and giants, now stood still, captured not by fear, but by desire. The danger before him was not physical. It was moral, and it was far more subtle.
His heart began to race. Desire has a way of narrowing vision. In that moment, the kingdom faded, the war faded, God faded. All that remained was what he wanted. David sent for information. The reply came quickly. She is Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. The name struck deeper than David expected. Uriah was not a stranger. He was one of David's mighty men, an elite warrior, part of a group bound not just by loyalty, but by shared bloodshed and sacrifice. These were men who had stood with David before he was king, men who had protected him when Saul hunted him, men whose faithfulness had helped build the kingdom itself. Uriah had earned his place. He was honorable, trusted, known. And now Uriah was far away, fighting for David's throne. David knew this, and still he sent for her. Bathsheba came under royal command. Scripture does not describe her emotions. It does not tell us whether she was afraid, confused, resigned, or silent. It does not tell us whether she resisted or felt powerless. The text leaves space, space that forces readers to confront the imbalance of power. What Scripture does tell us is simple and devastating. David took her. There is no poetry in that statement, no justification, no excuse. And when it was over, Bathsheba returned to her house. Days passed, life continued, the palace functioned, the war raged on. But sin does not remain silent forever. It waits, it grows, and then it speaks. A message arrived. I am pregnant. In that moment, desire collapsed into dread. The pleasure that had once consumed David vanished, replaced with fear and calculation. This was no longer a private moral failure. This was a threat to his throne, his reputation, and the stability of the kingdom. A king who betrayed one of his own mighty men could not command loyalty. A ruler exposed as corrupt could invite rebellion. David understood this instantly, and so he chose deception. He sent word to Joab, commander of the army, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." When Uriah arrived in Jerusalem, dust still clinging to his garments, David welcomed him warmly. He asked about the war, about Joab, about the soldiers. His questions sounded sincere, his tone carried concern. But beneath the surface, David was manipulating events. Then he offered rest. "Go down to your house," he said. "Wash your feet." The suggestion carried weight. It was an invitation to intimacy, to normal life, to home. If Uriah slept with his wife, the pregnancy would appear legitimate. But Uriah did not go home. Instead, he slept among the servants at the palace gate. When David questioned him, Uriah answered with words that revealed the depth of his integrity. "The ark and Israel and Judah dwell in tents," he said. "My commander and my brothers are camped in the open field. How could I go to my house, eat and drink, and lie with my wife?" David heard those words and felt the sting. Uriah possessed the honor David had abandoned. Still, David did not stop. That night he invited Uriah to drink with him. He filled his cup repeatedly, hoping wine would weaken resolve where authority had failed. But even drunk, Uriah did not go home. Honor held firm. At this point, David stood at the edge of exposure. His plans had failed, his reputation teetered, and instead of repenting, he escalated. He wrote a letter. He sealed it and placed it into Uriah's own hands. The loyal soldier carried his own death sentence back to the battlefield. The order was clear. Place Uriah where the fighting is fiercest and withdraw. Joab understood. At Rabbah, Uriah was sent forward. When the enemy pressed hard, the army pulled back. Uriah remained, alone, surrounded. He fought as he always had, with courage, discipline, and loyalty. He did not know he had been abandoned. He did not know his king had betrayed him. And there he fell. When the messenger returned, David received the news with chilling calm. The sword devours one as well as another. Bathsheba mourned. When her mourning ended, David brought her into the palace and made her his wife. A son was born. David believed the matter was buried, but God had seen everything. The prophet Nathan came with a story. A rich man, a poor man, one lamb. David's anger burned.
"The man who did this deserves to die." Nathan answered quietly, "You are that man." The truth struck. Judgment followed. The sword would never leave David's house. The child would die. David confessed, "I have sinned against the Lord." The child fell ill. David fasted. He prayed. He lay on the ground through the night. The child died. David rose. He washed. He worshipped. Forgiveness had come. Consequence remained. From this union would later come Solomon, but before peace there would be blood. Amnon would violate Tamar. Absalom would murder Amnon. Absalom would rebel against David. A father would flee from his own son. All of it traced back. One night, one look, one decision. Bathsheba survived. She endured. She rose. David remained king, but scarred. And Scripture tells this story not to glorify sin, but to warn us that no power shields the heart, that secrecy cannot outrun truth, that forgiveness does not erase consequence. This is the story of Bathsheba and of King David's greatest fall.